We're going.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen from around the world in the Facebook land and the online stratosphere. Sean Harvey here and Julia Patterson. Today's Success with Dynamic Duo, we have a great guest. Her name is Deborah. I'll let Julia go on to explain where she met Deborah from, as I just met her today. So I'm super excited to forge a relationship that will last a lifetime so we can potentially do some joint ventures in the near future. Julia, take it away.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Our great guest speaker today, her name is Deborah Ager. She's founded Radiant Media Lab. She's a marketing and copywriting coach. She helps service-based small businesses craft their business story and message so they sparkle in the sea of blah and growing business. Deborah she's one of those people that you just need to connect with because she's sparkly. You can tell she just loves what she does. And just speaking with her today, she's working in the marketing and copywriting field for about 15 years, and she's had her current business for about 3. And she really does a great job in helping people tell their stories so they can actually develop their business. So she's a great resource for all of us, and we're tickled pink that she's here today. Deborah, if I could ask you to just basically tell your story, any aha moments you had along the way. What were some of your challenges? Because our audience, everybody comes up against a universal challenge line. And so we need to find out from people how to, because you're successful, obviously, you come up against a challenge line and most people will turn and go back because it's more comfortable. So if you don't mind sharing some of those moments with us and basically how you got into what you're doing. So I'm really excited about this. So thank you very much, Deborah, for being on today, and take it away.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show. Well, overall, I believe in serving those who serve others. So a lot of the people I work with help humanity in some way. And my own business origin story is that in 2003, I founded a magazine called 32 Poems Magazine. It's a literary journal. And through that process, I realized that one, I could start a magazine, but also I realized that I had a story, I had the magazine, and then universities came calling. So I'll explain all of that in a little bit. But basically one day I received a phone call, and it was somebody from Yale University, and they were asking for my social security number. So in the US, a social security number is a number that you usually keep private, and you use it to file your taxes. And it kind of helps track you to be able to file your taxes. So different countries use different things. So businesses have something called a tax ID number. And what Yale really meant to ask for was my tax ID number. But I thought it was a scam. So I Googled the person's name, and I found out that the person worked in the library, and that Yale University wanted to buy a subscription to my magazine. So I was in disbelief. What? And part of this happened is because I've been working on my business origin story and my marketing, and word had gotten out. I didn't try to get Yale to subscribe to my magazine. They called me. And when people start calling you to do things, it's a lot easier than you trying to have to call everybody to get them to work with you, or to get speaking engagements, or to get joint venture partnerships, or whatever it is that you need in your business in order to succeed. So the really cool thing is that other universities followed after that. Next was Harvard, then Brown, the University of Wisconsin, and many others after that. So I kind of had this aha moment that I had built a brand using my marketing skills and also my writing skills. But then you had mentioned challenges, so I wanted to address that too. It's not like I rolled out of bed and made all this happen. There were definitely some challenges along the way. So when I first started the magazine, I wasn't sure what our story was. I wasn't sure what set us apart. I had to put time into thinking about that. What was it that really made us unique compared to all of the other magazines that were doing something similar? So I worked on that. I worked on the story of how I came to create the magazine. And what I found through that process is that people really identified with the story, and then we were able to grow a community, a group of supporters. People started to subscribe to it. And I just have to be completely 100% honest. When I got my first subscription, it was a woman from Ireland. I have no idea how somebody from abroad, I'm based in the US, I have no idea how somebody from abroad found out about the magazine. I kind of wanted to throw up, to be honest. because I had not even made a magazine yet. So for anyone who's starting their business or starting some project, don't feel like you have to have it all figured out. You can start slowly getting the word out about what you do without having everything 100% figured out. That was a key learning for me. But what was really the most important thing was once I learned how to craft my story and also how to share it or market in a way that felt good to me, that I was able to attract the right for us people into our business environment. And so some of the things I got from that were, I built my consulting business into a real business that supports me. I authored and co-edited 3 books through and telling stories helped in that process. I've been invited to speak by universities, colleges, and museums and business groups. I didn't have, sometimes, sometimes I reach out to people so that I can speak, but a lot of times people are contacting me to come speak to their groups. And, I published 20 issues of a magazine, which was also really exciting. I've since kind of retired from that, and now somebody else does that work. But I learned a lot from that experience. And people ask me how I do it, which is kind of why Julia and I got to talking about what I do, and she invited me on the show. And it really comes down to stories, because when you communicate your story, you connect with other people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Wow. So you've had some pretty good aha moments along the way, but it feels like it's just been like sometimes things come into, focus and you can go with the flow, and other times it feels like you're bumping up against a wall. So exactly. Have you had a lot of those bump up against the wall moments, or has it just been more of a go with the flow? Because your story is amazing. You were sort of cutting edge, probably without even realizing it. I can tell.
It's funny because I started a blog a long time ago. I don't know if you guys remember Blogspot, but I started a blog on Blogspot, and that's where our magazine's blog was. And during that time, I think it was around 2005, I had a child, and I posted a picture, and a lot of people commented on that blog post to wish me well. Well, then flash forward, I went to a conference, and I was wearing the baby in one of those baby harnesses, and people were coming up and calling my baby by name and saying hi to my baby. I realized, oh my gosh, people are reading this blog. It was sort of this aha moment that, I don't know, sometimes you put things out there, but then you don't really see people reading it. It doesn't feel real until something like that happens. But some of the bump up the wall against the wall moments, if you mean like hiccups, definitely had those when we first started working on this magazine. We advertised it on a small slip of pink paper. We had a modest beginning here in 2003. We were at this conference just for writers, and we started handing out our pink slips of paper to describe our magazine to people, because we had no magazine yet, and just told people about our vision. And that's how we first got the word out. And I feel like every time there was a bump, there were definitely a lot of them, but I feel like every time there was a bump, I would just sit down and think, okay, I don't know how to do this thing, so is there someone who can help me? Or is there a course I can take? I've taken courses in cascading style sheets back before there was software to do it for you. And, I've gone to conferences on how to use WordPress websites so I could get better about that for the business. So I think through that process, what I really enjoyed about coming up against bumps was it usually was a chance for me to learn something new or partner with someone who had that skill that I didn't have.
Mindset.
Yeah.
That's a very important thing, as we know. And one thing that I'm hearing you say too is intuition. You're following what you feel is right. And a lot of people don't do that. Right? Mm-hmm. And so how do you stay motivated and inspired every day to get up and do what you, I'm going to say, need to do to build your business?
I think it comes down to, I do a lot of free writing where I sit down, I don't know what words are going to come out on the page, and I write. And I actually use one of these things to do my writing, an old-fashioned pen. Yeah. Here's another kind in case anyone wants to see my special gold marker. But I like to write by hand, because I feel like that physical process connects to our brain in a way that typing on a laptop doesn't. Now, I know a lot of people have bad handwriting, and I could probably win a lot of bad handwriting contests. That's how bad my handwriting is. But But I think that it's really important to have that connection between your hand and your brain when you're writing down. And I write without stopping for, say, 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And that really helped me clarify, like, what I want, what's important to me. And that's how I came up with the phrase, when I'm talking about my business, I like to say that I believe in helping those who help others. I like to help humanity in some way. So I realized just by using these words in my copy, I was attracting a lot of the right for me people into my Facebook group. So there are people who have positive mindsets. There are meditation coaches, yoginis. There are consultants in the web industry, people who work in website usability, SEO, and web content. So really, I was attracting people with a certain kind of mindset. Instead of thinking about I want to serve lawyers, which would be fine for someone, but for me, I was looking more for mindset. And really just attracting those people into my universe.
Because we do know, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced it too, is that there's a really small percentage of people who push themselves to grow every day. And so having that mindset is a big part of it. And I think it's actually becoming, it's funny because on my Facebook, I've got almost 5,000 friends on Facebook, and intentionally, I went out to find people who were, business owners and that kind of thing. But I've run across so many business owners who don't have that mindset. They have that, they want to be a business owner, but they hold themselves back because of their mindset. And I've tried to help some of them, and it's kind of tough sometimes because they don't have that thought process of, what am I supposed to learn out of this? What's my life lesson, right? And so whenever I come up against, bump against the wall or universal challenge line, whatever you want to call it, when I run across some kind of obstacle, I'm always looking for that lesson. What am I supposed to do to change that around? What can I do? How can I move forward? Right. And I hear the same thing with you too, that you're looking for that. Like for me, I mean, I was in a bad marriage before, and, I came out of that successfully with my daughter. And yes, there's been a lot of work and heartache and stuff going through that, right? But what were my life lessons from that? I learned huge lessons. Mm-hmm. I'm not a victim, I'm a victor. I came out victorious, right? And a lot of people stay stuck in that. Excuse me. So it's very important to have that mindset. And I mean, I'm sure you know that we're only conscious about 20% of our beliefs and values, 80% are buried, right? So, I mean, when you come across those things, obviously you meet them head on, right? Just saying, oh, poor me, right? And I think that that's a big factor in having a successful business, successful life, successful relationships, everything, right? So Sean, do you have anything that you want to ask? He's sitting there like.
I think the biggest thing that I've noticed, so thank you for sharing that, Deborah, is most business owners are not interested in investing in themselves. They want to invest in their business, but they forget about the one most important critical element, and that's themselves. I've been in business for approximately 15, 16 years as an entrepreneur, and I've just been blown away by the people that I've been in business with, maybe not connected with per se, but in the same field. And they're small-minded thinking, well, why you get a mentor? You don't need that. Why are you going to get the coaching? You don't need that. You can just go do it and just go sell, and they're focused on the wrong thing. People want to buy, they just don't want to be sold per se. Mm-hmm. You have to get better as a mentor and as a coach and as an individual, as a father, as a husband. All of these things, and personal development is huge. And I find that a lot of people have forgotten about that critical element. They worry about 90% of the pie, but that 10% that's so critical, they don't see value in it and they don't want to do it. And I think that's where what you guys are just sharing, that they don't want to do that because they're lack of vision, lack of ability to accept responsibility, I guess you could say, something along that line that is it's like oxygen. If you're not growing, you're dying. People want to buy, they don't want to be sold. It's just a mindset, absolutely. And when you have that and they lack the vision because of it, it limits their growth and their ability to go and truly serve the world so it can truly serve them.
Yeah, I think you have a key point about how people want to buy and they don't want to be sold, because I've been in conversation with people. These were not sales conversations, but I get so, like, as Julia noticed, she's very perceptive. I do get excited about the kind of work I do. And so when I was talking to someone about their email sales funnel, or how they could set up a launch for a really cool retreat and class they have, then someone said, eventually this person said, I want to hire you to help me with this. And I thought I was helping her so she could just go do it. But then she really wanted to help me do it. And I thought, oh, and so that was a really great learning for me to see that really business is about having a lot of conversations. And it's not about trying to jam a tactic or a product down someone's throat, but it's really just about conversing with them. And when you have your story straight and you know what your story is and what your values are and how all that ties together, then that will come through in your words, and then people will just be drawn to work with you. Because I've been working on something that I have coming up, and then people have said, ooh, I want to learn more. And I thought, oh, well, okay, well, since you asked, here's the link. I didn't want to be pushing them into it, but they said thank you. And I realized, oh, yeah, people wanted to learn more and they were asking for more information. So of course it makes sense to give that to them. So I feel like that's really key.
Yeah, my publisher says, it's like a warm kiss. if you're not doing exactly what you just shared, Deborah, it's not like a warm kiss and you get the pushback.
Right.
It's kind of like that first date where it's like, boom, you go for the clothes. No.
Yeah.
You get pushback, right?
Yeah.
So he says it's got to be a warm kiss. People, they want to buy, they just don't want to be sold.
Right.
And so many people focus on the wrong thing about the end in mind when they should be focusing on building the relationship and the rapport.
Yeah.
And when they ask you, say, hey, Deborah, I need what you have. Send me your link. They're begging you and they're throwing your credit cards at you going, I want in. Yeah.
Yeah. I know, it's kind of wild. And I have a mentor, and I love her description of how sales and building business works, but she said, fame is built one conversation at a time. It doesn't mean fame like you want to, necessarily drive a Bentley. I'm not talking about that necessarily, or be a famous actor, but really just being able, by fame, I guess I really mean being able to get your message out there and to build your brand and to be able to attract the right for you people back into your universe, like I said before. But I think that's what's so wonderful about it, is just that focus on conversations. And I've always really valued deep conversations with people where we unearth all kinds of juicy tidbits. And I feel like I think that words are very important as well. And that words, at its base root, words build business. You can't build a business if you don't have words. So they're very important.
That's true. So I'm curious about, because you said you want to help humanity. Now, did this come as, did you always feel that way as a child, or is it something that you've built over the years? Because I've heard various things, and do you set goals? How do you move forward in your life?
Well, when I was a child, I noticed there was a lot of development in my area. So there were a lot of houses going up, and I used to play in the woods a lot. I didn't grow up in a forest or anything, but we had some patches that had not yet been developed. I used to play in them and let my imagination go wild. And then I saw that houses were being built in some of these areas. And so I had this dream that I wanted to make a lot of money so I could buy those places back and then raise all the houses, just tear them all down and put the trees back. Oh. So I feel like that it was like the early genesis of my, wanting to help in some way. And I worked for a large humanitarian organization. Its mission is to relieve human suffering. So I feel like it's been a theme for a long time for me. I mean, I founded a nonprofit. I've raised money for nonprofits as well in the United States. And so it is something that I've had in my life at some point. And then in college, I used to raise money by organizing rock shows to raise money for small nonprofits in the Washington, D.C. area. So I would say helping humanity has always been a thread that's connected my life. And now I realized I can help people who help humanity by helping them craft their message, because I can't always do what all of those people do. I don't have the expertise of, say, someone who's a religious person, a religious lay person or something with that knowledge. I don't have that knowledge, but those sorts of people can go out and talk to people. I'm not a scientist, but I can help someone with a science background write a book that then helps scientific companies help solve common health problems like cancer or something like that. I can't solve cancer myself, but I can help someone who helps someone do that. So I feel like that's one way that I can magnify the impact I can have in the world, is by empowering other people to be able to magnify their positive impact.
That's amazing, because I hear of people who have that very early on vision, and it just amazes me. I was actually reading something where this guy, 5 years old, he decided he was going to do something, and he ended up doing it.
Wow,
he was
that's
5.
great.
Like,
5 years old.
It's amazing,
yeah.
right? So that's
powerful.
Very powerful, because he knew where his life path was taking him, and yeah, he got dragged off and then came back, but that was always in his mind. 5 years old. Like, so you're pretty much along that same lines. You knew what the ultimate vision was for you. And like for myself, I'm just developing that. I mean, I have always loved helping people, but I never knew what that sort of looked like for me. So, and I'm sure I'm probably more the quote unquote norm, because there's a lot of people that I've spoken with who say, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. The sort of that when I grow up thing, right? So, it's really interesting. And I know that a lot of people struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, having that vision early is just huge. That's powerful. So.
Yeah, well, I would say I had it early, but I didn't always stay with it, because I didn't realize that was always my vision. I mean, I gravitated to those kinds of jobs that would help me do that kind of work. But I'd say 20 years ago, I never thought, oh, I serve those who serve others, or I help humanity in these ways. Like, it wasn't really conscious. I just sort of gravitated to things. And then I think it was in later years that I was more mindful about it, if that makes sense. So, because I think it is a struggle. There's actually a cool story. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but this idea that when you're born, you're born knowing what you're supposed to do in life, and then you brush against the tree of forgetfulness, and then you spend your life trying to get back to that, to figuring out what it is. And I've always loved that story, because I do feel like maybe as a young child I knew, but then I had to go and study things that didn't have to do with that, and then I had to go off and do some traveling, and then all the things you do when you're younger, college and so on. And it wasn't always on that path. It wasn't always consistent. And I had jobs that were far outside that area, for years. And so it wasn't always 100% on that path. So I didn't want to make it seem like it was really easy or it wasn't a struggle. It was, but I just feel like I kept getting back on the track and back on the track. And finally I realized, oh, okay, I'm supposed to be on this track, and this is the track for me. So it took me a few times off the track to realize what I was really supposed to be doing.
Sean wants to say something. He just unmuted.
When did all this start for you? Because obviously you weren't born to be an entrepreneur like when you were a baby.
Right.
When did that thought process in your life have that aha moment, the light bulb come on, saying, you know what, this job journey is not for me. I need to go work for myself. I need to create my own economy. When did that happen for you, Deborah?
It's really interesting. I worked for 2 really smart entrepreneurs almost straight out of college. And I always tended to gravitate towards smaller companies where I could sort of be in the mix of, or be close to entrepreneurs. So I was drawn to that, but yet I wanted the security of the job where I didn't have to, because I think deep down, I didn't even articulate this thought because I was really just too young in my 20s. But I think I realized I didn't have all the skills I needed to have my own business at that point, but that I wanted to be around these people who were building a business. And I found that very exciting. So one of my early bosses actually just sold his business to a larger company. So it's really been neat to like watch that whole, like I was there almost at the beginning when they were just starting out. So so that's been really cool to observe. So I think it probably started, I'm trying to think, probably started right after I got out of college, not with me starting my own business, but with me somehow knowing, but not really knowing that that's something I would probably move toward at some point.
Cool. Awesome.
And I was talking with a friend of mine who's a fiction writer, and he started a company based on stories. He makes mobile apps and tells stories in national parks that tell stories in different kinds of parks. And we were talking about this idea of the artist entrepreneur, and it just seems like there's a lot of people who have an artistic background and then they don't really, they kind of finally figure out they're supposed to be an entrepreneur. So we were having this conversation, I think it was last November, December, about our journeys and how we came to those realizations. So.
Wow.
That's awesome. So as a young mother, and you had that aha moment, probably you're 21-ish, 25-ish, in that window, you worked for an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
When did you actually take the leap of faith yourself to say, you know what, I need to become an entrepreneur?
Oh, yeah.
Mid-30s?
So the first time was probably around the time I had my child, and then I was a life coach. And actually, well, here's a mistake to talk about, not a mistake, but something I didn't know. I was calling myself a life coach, but I wasn't really differentiating myself from all the other life coaches out there. I had the training, I had some clients, and my coaching calls with them went well, but I didn't really know much about pricing or packages. There's just so much that I didn't know at that point. And then when I got pregnant, I'll just be honest, I was tired, and I just thought, let me take everything off the slate here. I'm just going to keep this job for a while because I can't have a job and a side hustle and have a baby. That was just too much. So something had to come off. So that came off the plate. And then I had another one a few years later where I had a search engine optimization marketing company. That's when SEO was sort of new. And then, and I provided that service to a lot of people. And then I folded in online advertising, Google AdWords. I got certified in that. And so I was offering those two services to different companies for a while. And then, but there were still some things, like it was better than the first company, but there were still some things missing. Like explaining SEO to people was really hard. They didn't understand why they needed it. So I struggled to have my own words in that business. I mean, thinking about it now, I could really explain it a lot better now than I could have then, just because I'm better at that kind of thing now. And then I think I was drawn back to, I had a really cool job opportunity, and I was like, ooh, I want to do this. And I had a couple jobs there that allowed me to really grow and do some things that I was really excited about doing because I love to build. But but those jobs let me be somewhat entrepreneurial. So that was the gift of those jobs. And then eventually I felt like I outgrew them. In one case, I got laid off because we had the financial crisis here in the U.S. and it was a company related to financial services, and everything was tanking. So then I got another really cool job with more experiences, and that was good. And it's really interesting because what Julia says about experiences and how I feel like being laid off was really a great experience in the end because I had to hustle. I found something else within a few months. I met a lot of cool people in the process. I formed like a little support group of people who'd been laid off, and we met at each other's houses to provide support and help each other. And then we all kind of graduated to jobs, so that was nice. So I just feel like all of those blips along the journey in life really helps us become more compassionate and better able to understand other people's plight. So even if like something happened to you that didn't happen to me in exactly the same way, I feel like those blips help us be more empathetic towards each other's issues, even if we don't have the exact same issue.
That's exactly true. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes, I find that keeping an eye on the life lessons, I think, is the biggest thing. And I truly believe that those blips that we have in life make us stronger when we work through them.
Right.
We can make a choice. We can be weak, become a victim, or we can choose to be stronger, by learning those lessons along the way. So it's really huge because when I think about, all the people that I've spoken with, I was a coach for about 5 years as well on a specific program. And I really, really want to get back into coaching. I've been working on it, but I kind of veered off too. I mean, I veered off into a vending business for 14 years,
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So, excuse me, but it was really interesting because I loved the people. That was the big draw for me. And then, probably the last 2 years I kind of went, how am I helping people? Because people would come up to me and say, well, I've gained 20 pounds since you put this vending machine in here. So are you going to give me a treadmill? So what I heard was I'm really not helping people. Because I had the belief, okay, well, I'm helping them be happy, or I'm helping them, stay motivated at work. But you know, it kind of, those little things started creeping in, and I'm like, really, I'm not helping a lot. I mean, okay, they're happy for the moment, you know, they're getting their snack for the day or whatever it is, but really, am I helping them?
Right.
So when it actually, I didn't listen to the signs, because my body was giving me little things going, okay, this hurts, that hurts, you've hurt yourself, you've done this, you've done, and I didn't listen. So all of a sudden, I get taken out with, I went to step in my van one day, this was October 2015, and my ligament on my right knee just, I mean, I almost fell. Like, it was just, I was almost on the ground because it ripped, right? Not totally, but it was pretty bad. And then I think the following week, I tripped over something. I kind of worked through it. My son was helping me, so I got a knee brace and a cane and whatever. And so then a week later, I tripped over something, and then I tore 2 more ligaments, same knee.
Wow.
I'm like, holy smokes,
right.
What is going on? So, I mean, when I think back to that, and that was a huge, because I mean, really what ended up happening ultimately, because I looked for the lesson, even though it was hard to let that business go, because I built it from scratch, right? It was my baby, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, I mean, I realized how much my husband needed me here, because he's been diagnosed with severe PTSD. So he was in depression and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So he needed me here. And that's why that happened.
Right.
Right. Because, and plus I needed to get out of it, because I was, you know, so it was twofold. But when you look at that, I could have chosen to be depressed. I could have chosen to not move forward. Right. And what came up from the recesses of my mind is, you know what, I've always wanted to build an online business, right? So, I mean, it's kind of interesting just from the mindset aspect, you know? So is anything that you do are you a naturally happy person, or are there certain things that you do every day besides the journaling to keep yourself motivated and moving forward and things like that?
You know, it's key for me. I believe in the fact, like, what we eat affects us, the vitamins, our chemical processes inside our bodies. I've been doing a lot of research, and I just say making sure I get the right vitamin Bs, my mood is so good. But if I'm not getting the right vitamin Bs, I'm like, I just wilt like a little flower in the wintertime. So I just think that that's really key. I don't think it can be stressed enough that making sure that you're getting all the nutrients you need, so that your brain can function correctly, is really important. I'm not a doctor. That's just something I've learned in my own journey. But I think on a daily basis, that writing that I mentioned earlier is really key for me. I have a partner that I meet with usually several times a week via phone, sometimes in person. And we just sit down and we write. And I do these, we call them jumpstart writing sessions. I even taught a class on this at one point, but I don't offer it anymore. I offer it for free sometimes if people are interested. But basically, it's you do these writing sprints. You write for 5 minutes just to get all the gobbledygook out of your head, and then you pick maybe 2 or 3 sprints of 10 to 15 or maybe even 20 minutes each, and you just write without stopping. And I find that that's very meditative for me. I've always struggled with meditating and just being quiet unless I'm in a group. I've done it for 6 months at a time, but then eventually something will make me stop. But I try to incorporate it. That said, I try to incorporate it into my life, like just stop and breathe. Because again, going back to that body-mind connection, if we don't have enough oxygen in our brains, we can't really think. We might start to get panicky. So I really just try to focus on that and make sure that all of that is working as it should be.
I think a lot of us, because we get so caught up in the day-to-day stuff, right, is that we forget to look after ourselves. We forget to pay attention to how we're feeling.
Yeah.
I know for me, just recently, I've been paying more attention to how I feel and focusing, doing some research, right? So, which I did research, then I'm going to institute this. How do I feel as a result of that? And I think a lot of people forget to do that. They forget to focus on the number one, which is them. Because like you said, if you don't have the right nutrition, you don't have, all those factors that are good for you, then you can't continue to be your best. Right. So, and I know I've heard, talked to different or, follow different mentors and Brendan Burchard, like he said, I don't know if you know who Brendan Burchard is?
I don't know.
Okay. He's he's a great guy to look up because he was 18, he had a car accident, and, all the lessons he learned from that. And he's built a huge speaking career and coaching and the whole 9 yards. I mean, he's a fabulous man. But what he teaches people is most people can focus for about 50 minutes. And then you need to take a break, because if we sit and try and focus on something too longer than that, and he said he's done a lot of research and all that, and he said that seems to be the optimal number, and so it's kind of interesting to when I hear these things, I'm okay, and so I start paying attention, right?
Yeah.
So it's that learn, do, teach thing, right? So I've learned it. And I've seen myself about 45 to 50 minutes. I can sit and focus on something. Then I need to get up and, even if it's go grab a glass of water, whatever it is. Brendan goes for like 2 or 3 times a day, goes for like a 10-minute walk. And that's just, like he said, it really fuels his creativity as well, because he does a lot of writing. He's done quite a few books, and he does coaching and just all kinds of things, right? So I mean, he's a very prominent man, and I love what he teaches, because he's so positive. He's so down to earth too, which is really cool. I love down to earth people.
That's nice.
They're not up here. They're not holding themselves higher than you, right?
Right. I was just reading a book called The Personal Paleo Code by Chris Kresser, and he pointed out how if you do all your exercise at 1 hour in the morning, and then you go to work and you're sitting in the car, and then you sit at your desk and you're working, you go to lunch, you're sitting again, you work more in the afternoon, and you drive home and you're sitting, and then you sit and you watch TV, that 1 hour of exercise you did in the morning is not as good as, say, the walks throughout the day that you mentioned that Brendan does, because we're really designed to need to move around. So I would say that makes a lot of sense. So that's something that, after reading this book, which I just finished last week, I thought, okay, I actually want to put in breaks, throughout the day, where I'm not just doing all my exercise at night or in the morning, but, maybe 40 jumping jacks at lunch or something like that, or go for a walk, or just something that gets my body moving in a different way. I think that's really important. Well,
and it does, it increases a lot of the hormones that keep us up, right?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, so it's very, very, and I think for me, I'm finding just getting up out of my chair, it actually helps me to stay more focused, because I am moving around a little bit. Like, I went from vending, where I was moving all the time, to sitting more. My massage therapist says, so you went from one extreme to the other. Right? So, and neither one is good for the body.
Yeah. Funny.
So it's the happy medium thing, right? Sean disappeared on us. I see he's all we see is his picture. So is there anything that you want our audience to know that because I mean, I know that you're very intuitive, and has there been anything that's come up that you really want to share with us?
I'm trying to think. I don't know. I feel like I kind of feel like I shared the main points, just that when you share your story, when you share your truth for your story, more of the right for you people will show up. I feel like that's really important, and is a great lesson. And I also, one thing I've been thinking about a lot, and that I want to write about and make a video about, is just that you see a lot of programs out there in the online world where someone teaches on a topic. It could be Facebook ads. It could be increase your email list size or something like that. And then because they know that one area, they try to jam everybody into that as the solution to their business problems. But I sort of take a contrarian viewpoint. I'm fine. I've actually taken Facebook advertising training, and I've taken lots of different kinds of trainings to solve problems. It's not the training that's the problem. It's more that I feel like it's more important for people to sit down and start at the root of their business and figure out what it is that they really need to do, so that they're not running around trying all these tactics and paying for trainings that really aren't going to end up moving them forward. And I think when we do that, when we take that mindful moment, so to speak, we can get smarter about our small business marketing. So that's something that I've been thinking about a lot, that I would love for people to take away. It's just, sit down and think about what it is, you really need to do, like whom you want to serve, where they're spending time. Actually, I wrote on this topic recently, I was walking with a friend who owns a small business, and she said, "Do you think I should be on Facebook? Do you think I should have a Facebook page?" And I said, "Well, I would need to know more about your customers and where they spend time before I could really answer that question." And she was like, "Oh, okay." And then we were walking, so maybe that wasn't the best time to dive into that particular topic. And then she said, "Well, I don't even really spend time on Facebook, and I don't really like it." And I thought, "Ooh, ding, ding, ding." So I realized if you're going to market your business successfully and get it out there, you really have to take action in something that's going to feel good to you. Because if you don't hire someone to do your Facebook marketing for you, and even hiring someone to do your social media as a small business owner is maybe not the best choice, because it really should be you, so that you're hearing what people are saying. But you really should find the platform and the methods that you like the best and where you'd like to spend time, so that joy of spending time there will really come through. I feel like Facebook is one of the ones for me. I revived my Facebook page recently. I revived my Facebook group because I went through this process myself, and I realized I like Facebook. Mm-hmm. I enjoy being on there. I enjoy meeting people and connecting with them. And I know it's time consuming, and it can be, but I'm going to get smarter about spending less time and making that time more valuable. I haven't quite done that yet, but that's my next step. So I just feel like there's always, a process of learning, a next step, and finding that method that works best for you so that you can meet your goals.
So what I'm hearing you say is that somebody who's starting a business, for example, or just, they've started one, but they want to scale it up. So people need to look at where they want to end up in a certain way. Like it's building blocks, right?
Right.
So, and it's, what's important. So, and a lot of people get really scared. And I know I've been through this myself because I had to build a business plan for my vending business, right? Mm-hmm. And so people don't necessarily take that time. They're afraid that if they put things down on paper or even have a plan in their head, it needs to be on paper. We know that for various reasons. But I think people are afraid of putting that stuff down because then what if it doesn't work?
Right.
And so many people are they're afraid of failure, but they're also afraid of success.
Right.
The two ends of the spectrum. And I've been through this myself, and I'm actually doing some business learning about business acumen and things like that now, even though I've had a business for years, various things like you, but each one I've done, I've reached a higher level. And I'm sure you've experienced the same thing, right? Because I've learned certain things, but now I want it all to come together and to be able to say, okay, I know where I'm going, and sometimes we need that. We need to be beat up a little bit, and that's okay, because as long as we learn the lessons from it, but ultimately we need to know where we're going. And that's not just business, it's also life.
Yep.
Like you have that big vision, right? And I've developed my vision. I know Sean's got his. And we see so many people in between, like, from the beginner all the way through, right?
Yeah.
And Sean and I, we both have mentors who are very successful, right? And obviously you do too. And that's a key thing, right? Because we found too, is that growth. It seems like you've done it just without even really thinking about it in some ways, knowing you needed to expand your skill set to be able to move to the next level. And but to be able for people to understand that, like Sean says, invest in themselves, right? Mm-hmm. On different levels. It's not just about spending money on the business, but spending money on themselves, learning what they need to learn, because they're at the helm of the business. So,
right.
Sean, you look like you got something you want to say.
I do. I'm gonna be a naked soul. I'm scared shitless of success. Not because I'm a bad person, because I've never experienced before, and I'm gonna be the only one in my family to experience wild, crazy, hairy, audacious goals. And I'd be lying to you if I'm not scared. I'm scared. I'm excited. I'm all those things. But guys, we are just people that have a burning desire and want to make a difference in the world by the positive footprint we embark in touching other people's lives. And yeah, I am scared, but I know that we're on the right journey and the carpet's taking us the right way. with the universal abundance that we've thrown it out to the world that is coming back to us tenfold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knowing that we can become very successful financially so that we can reach out and touch the causes that are close to our heart, but it all starts with now. What we're doing now expands it. That's the way I view it anyway. How about you, Deborah? Is that how you feel?
Yeah, I believe in that same expansion idea that you mentioned. Yeah.
That's why Sean and I, Sean was the one who came up. Sean, maybe you haven't shared for a while about why you thought about success with dynamic duo. I think maybe.
No, I haven't. I think it's good that we revert back to that. As an extrovert, 20x, I've experienced in my life that I was always hungry for learning from people that were where I wanted to be in the future. And because I was in a business model that kind of treated me like a job, I mean, I loved the business, I loved what we did. It just kind of was like I was an eagle locked up in a cage. And I had this crazy idea of writing this book and all these other things. And I know it wasn't a crazy idea, but it was crazy to the people I was around and the associations that I had. And I just said to them, do you realize what a book can do for the world? Not to mention myself, because when you give, you get. And they were like, yeah, but no. And it was a long time that I was talked out of that. And I'm so blessed that I left to better my life as well as to better the lives that I touch. And when I reached out to Julia, I said, I've had this brainchild for probably, I'm going to say at least 5 years from what I can remember, because, senility is kicking in. I just turned 44, so I was thinking all these crazy thoughts about, retirement home and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, I don't think about that stuff. I'm just kidding. Pattern interrupt right there. You didn't notice? So I just said, you know what? I need to go make this happen. Here's why. I want to have my own talk show. My mentor told me, you know what? Get off your anatomy and go and make it happen. And I wanted to, everybody else, the lighting's got to be right, the screen's got to be right, the time's got to be right, and all this other BS. And I'm just like, you know what? Enough's enough. We're just going to go do it. It's still not perfect, but it's perfect. Practice makes perfect. And here we are today. And I just said to Julia, let's go do this. And she kind of freaked me out a little bit because I was like this, and I'm like, she was excited. She almost wanted to throw up in her mouth, but she's like, yeah, we're doing it. I'm like, okay, that's cool. So it was kind of a shock, but it was a good thing at the same time, because I didn't know how she was going to react. I didn't know if she was going to throw up on the screen or whatever it was. I was just like, we had a conversation on the phone afterwards, and it was all good. But it was me getting out of my comfort zone because I didn't know the reaction, I guess, I was going to receive from the other party. And so many people have that, and I knew that I was taking her life and my life to a whole new level by getting uncomfortable by asking her. And most people would have stopped and said, yeah, Julia doesn't know me that well. She's from Calgary. I'm from Edmonton.
That rivalry.
About this. I mean, the hockey teams both suck. Here for Edmonton Oilers or the Calgary Flames, I mean, they both suck, and the weather's really freaking cold. I didn't think of those things. I was just like, you know what? I believe we have unique talents that we bring to the table, each of us, and we complement each other, and sometimes we don't complement each other because we butt heads every once in a while. It's kind of like a marriage, right? Everything's not all perfect and rosy. She kicks me in the backside every once in a while. I kick her in the backside, and it works well. Yeah. I want to have my own talk show. The reason why I want to have my own talk show is because I want to be a bigger voice in the world, in the business that we're in, which is the marketing business kind of entrepreneurial journey, because I believe that there's some unique things in that 10% of the pie that's missing that Julia and I can fill. Mm. And I've experienced those in my life, in my entrepreneurial journey. I'm just like, that's missing. So number two reasons why people leave businesses or opportunities is support or communication. Mm-hmm. And if you take care of those things, and I'm a phone guy, I hate sending messages. I really I'll send the odd email here and there. I do capital letters a lot. I don't really care about that. I'm excited. I'm super excited. I want to get to the point. I'd rather get on the phone because I want people to hear my passion about what it is that I do. That's why I think this is the best place for me to do that. I want people to understand that I'm so committed to my success being better internally as a person so I can better help them and better serve them. Right? When they experience that and they're like, well, he's got goosebumps. I can't fake goosebumps. Right? And I'm just that committed to helping myself while helping others at the same time because I help them first and it helps me automatically.
Yeah.
And that's where this came about. And we've been here. It's almost been a year now. Time's flying. It's exciting. It's scary. It's all those things all kind of wound up together. But you know what? The driving force is the why, and that's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
That's how this came about. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love the beliefs in there. That's great.
And if you can look up, you can get up. We all have greatness within us.
Do for sure.
That's it.
That's it. Sean's done. He's had his say. So I love what you do, Deborah, and I think that I can feel that you're going to change the world in your own special way. And I'm just really, really happy that we've been able to finally connect.
Yeah.
It was back and forth. But I think it was meant to be.
When Sean said he's not a fan of IMs, I thought, he wouldn't want to see what Julia and I had to all of our conversations on IM. It's funny.
But I guess on the other side of it too is that everyone has their strengths, everyone has their weaknesses. I don't have a problem sending a message, as Sean knows, because, if I think about it, I do it then. Because if I have to write it on my calendar, that just takes just that much more time and energy to me.
Right.
So if I can send a message, I do it with text too. Like, get back to me when you can, but it's off my plate, right?
Yes.
Because I've done what I thought about doing. What I said I'm going to do is follow up with that person, right? So, but yeah. And I mean, I agree that I think there needs to be a balance between that personal connection, but that's why I love this format. Because we see each other, right? And it doesn't have to be, and I much prefer this than a phone call, to be honest. And when I try and connect with people, I say, do you have Skype or Zoom? No. Oh, man. Because it's very valuable to me. So anyway, I know you're crunching, are having a time crunch here. We're getting up to that. Like we've got 2 minutes before you have to be off.
Right.
I know you're a busy gal too. So we want to keep you on schedule as well. So thank you very much for your time today. And thank you for all the golden nuggets. It's just been amazing. And I look forward to a long, prosperous relationship.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to your book, Sean.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to maybe having you help me.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I need that gal. Wheels are already, as soon as you said that, I'm like, really?
Ding, ding, ding.
Shut the front door.
Thanks, you guys, for having me on. It's been great to get to know you guys and to hear your story about why you started the show. It's very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyways, guys, we're going to end this because we know Deborah has to leave, but thank you again for tuning in to this edition of Success with Dynamic Duo. We look forward to seeing you guys on the next live. Take care, guys.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.